It's my podcast and I want paranormal activity.
I want it now.
In a world desperate to tear itself apart, only one man, and some other people, stand in the way of total destruction. Together they will right the wrongs, make bad, good, and single-handedly destroy evil. Who is this man, you may ask? This man is Jeff.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Jeff Jones and Friends Make It Better, the show that takes one of life's little annoyances, gives him a microphone, a podcast and a guest, and the overwhelming ego to believe he can make everything. It's creeps and conspiracy. Natasha, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. See, I told you that's exactly how it would go.
See, you're right.
First of all, so cryptids, creeps and conspiracies. I'm no good with alliteration. Yeah, I've stumbled at the first block here. What's that about?
So I actually used to be a part of another podcast where I had a co-host, and we used to split it up where it was half true crime and half, well, my weird beep. And caught myself. And caught myself. And we didn't have enough, time. Things were kind of difficult. So I actually branched my part off. And what I mainly covered were cryptids, creeps being, I wanted something that was, obviously sounded like everything else, because I wanted something that was, paranormal stuff, ghost stories. I mean, I could put anything. I mean, in theory, I could put whatever I want in it. So it's very flexible. Even if I wanted to do, I don't know, these monsters like, Dahmer or whatever, I could technically still put them in there. I probably won't, so don't get your hopes up, but I could. And then I've always kind of been, I should have been a lawyer, and at least that's what my mom says. And so the conspiracies come in, and I'm always interested to know, like, one, what are the conspiracies? What are people coming up with? Because some people I'm like, how did you come up with that? Right? Like, what, like, is that, how did that even happen? What, like, is that, how did that even happen? But then also, I also like to play devil's advocate, and I'm very open-minded, and which ironically, I'm also very skeptical. So it's kind of a weird, I'm an optimistic skeptic.
Optimistic skeptic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Say that 5 times. Skeptic.
Optimistic skeptic, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Say that 5 times fast. But it's something where I can kind of be like, oh, well, I can see this being a thing, but I can also see this being a thing. And looking at different viewpoints and kind of analyzing and breaking things down, I have a good time doing that because I like to learn about things. It really makes you kind of wonder sometimes what's happening out there, basically. And so I did, I released on Christmas. I did my first episode on the Yule Lads, and we did a cryptid Christmas because they are solely,
makes sense.
And yes. And so I started with that. I've tried a few things that I've not done before. I've got some interviews on there with paranormal investigators where we kind of talk about some of their experiences, their methods in hunting, any equipment that they might use, which one they think is their equipment that they might use, which one they think is their favorites, which ones they don't like. And I've had some where people use a lot of the different electronics and stuff, but then I've had people that are like, we don't use it at all. They don't like it. And so it's been really cool to see everybody's backgrounds. They don't like it. And so it's been really cool to see everybody's backgrounds. And then actually next week, whatever the date is next Wednesday, I got so much crap going on. I can't keep track of what date it is. I actually have part 1 of a friend of mine. He was on and told me I don't like story because story makes me feel like it's not true. His encounter that he had when he was younger with a dog man, I guess, or a werewolf. I was not, it was a large creature that, and it wasn't just him, it was him and like whole people, like multiple witnesses and everything like that. And the story is just, your encounter, sorry, is just it's amazing. I mean, it'll blow your socks off. And we had to put it into 2 parts because it just took us forever to get through it. But we also cover, I mean, weird shit. Oops, sorry. Weird stuff that I do.
It's okay.
Okay. But weird stuff that I do, and like the psychic realm and that kind of thing. Paranormal encounters, which I have a crap ton of, and which I actually have whenever I came out here. It's kind of weird. But one thing I do find it's cool is I have a really big tendency of. But one thing I do find it's cool is I have a really big tendency of picking up audio from people that you can't see during my recordings.
Really?
Yes. So I have multiple. I just leave them all in. I mean, they're all in there. And so if you are listening and you hear something, kind of weird, there's a few in there that are like really bonkers. Some of them I can't make out exactly what they're saying, but you can tell it's clearly not me because it sounds like a deeper voice. And when I record, there's no dudes in the vicinity. So if you hear any other voices like that, it's very obvious that it is something that's not, us or something. It really likes my friend Melissa from Ouch Was That a Ghost? It seems like if I record with her is when I have the most.
Well, I'm actually really excited. I want activity now. I want it. It's my podcast and I want paranormal activity.
I want it now. It's my podcast and I want it now. But I just have a lot of experiences. I mean, I've had near-death experiences. I've had, we are not here. All kinds of weird stuff. And so I just like to get a feel for what other people have. If they have a weird story about something they've seen or something like that, then I love to hear about it. And they can write in and I can read them. I'm actually working to hopefully get some listener stories put together to do a whole episode. Fantastic. But primarily, I do a lot of research and I, make the notes. I list it out, and cryptids are my favorite, to be honest. And it's basically,
creeps.
Well, I mean, they like me the most, but we go over, where's it from? What's it look like? Are there any reported encounters with it? What could it possibly be? And we go through all of that, like kind of story mode. And then at the end, take a minute to just kind of be like, well, what do you think? What do you think it is? What do you think it could be? And just kind of analyze and kind of get a feel for it. And a lot of times I like to ask, like, what would you do? Like, if you ran across one of these things, what would you do? Just to kind of get that. So it's kind of, structured with a little bit of open forum at the end. I am no filter. It is what it is. And no filter. It is what it is. And, so be prepared. I do have a disclaimer at the beginning of every episode, but it's just, we like to have a good time. We joke around, and it's just really basically, hanging out, talking about weird crap and making it funny.
Fantastic. Well, you do have a new listener with me, and actually, what I have is on my new YouTube is kind of I feature guests YouTube. So people will be able to find and stuff like that. But I'll put all of the link. Also ties quite It also ties quite nicely into what it is we're going to make better today, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Like how I did that.
That's it. A little bit.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Seamless segue. So, go then. What is it we are making better?
So, a multitude of different podcasts, and we all kind of seem like we have the same outlook, where I just feel like, what really grinds my gears? I don't know if you would get that reference or not, but
yeah, we got it over here.
All right, perfect. But these people that have these experiences and these encounters are risking everything virtually. I mean, their reputation, sometimes their jobs, their sanity, everything, like their families, to share what happened to them, and either make people aware of the situation. They probably are looking to kind of maybe find other people that have experienced similar things, or just make them feel, because trust me, with me and my paranormal crap, or just make them feel, because trust me, with me and my paranormal crap that happens to me, I feel like a leper. I'm like off in my own little world, and I'm like, like segregated. And to find other people that experience the same things that I do, even if it's not exactly, but it's pretty similar, experience the same things that I do, even if it's not exactly, but it's pretty similar, it is very comforting and reassuring. And it makes you be like, oh, maybe I'm not, cuckoo bananas. I am just different, which I'm a unicorn. So, but so they do all this so detailed and all this, and then they're so scrutinized by everyone. I mean, all of social media and the government and everybody, police, everything, and they try virtually anything and everything to discredit the victim or witness or whatever's wrong. And then you have it could be one person goes in there and says, oh no, I did it. I hoaxed them. It's a hoax, whatever. And no one background checks. No one verifies how or when or where they even said like their claims. They're just like, oh, they said it's fake, so it's fake. And no one, and it's so irritating that everybody is so, full throttle to debunk these people and their experiences and everything. But then you have some douche who just like makes up some crap saying that it's fake or this is how they did it. And everybody just accepts it and doesn't put into consideration even who the people are. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, because I am that douche. So
you're the douche. Okay. Douche canoe over here. Got it.
I'm douche by association, because I do. Is it because we want things to be nice and easy and clear cut and explainable, don't we? I mean,
well, you might.
Have you seen the video of the stuff that happened in Miami? There's a report of, like, I know the official story is there's a load of youths, and they're letting off fireworks and things like that, but there's just an obscene amount of police cars for it, which you can understand if they don't know it's fireworks, but think it might be a shooter situation.
It's a little odd. You've got colors flying all over the road.
That's it.
How could you mistake?
It's on the inside it's in a mall. So anyway, however it happened has happened, and all these police are coming, and then what you have is in as the police cars park, there's the headlights are going, and there's the tool.
Holy crap!
And it looks kind of eerie, and I was like, look, the amount of police, so this is this is why is no one talking about this kind of thing. And then people then say, well, definitely happened. The police have released a statement, so no, it was just some kids.
Swamp gas.
Yeah, and
which I have a T-shirt that I designed that literally says it's just swamp gas, and it's got a gas mask on it.
And then the explanation is the explanation is, well, it's just people walking in front of headlights, and it's made it look bigger, and because there's so much smoke, it's made it look through. And I'm just like, that makes total sense to me. It makes more sense. So
you're telling me if I go over here and I walk in front of this car, I'm gonna look taller? Because if that's the case, sign me up, because I'm like 5'2".
It's shadow, so it's the shadow.
Well, your shadow's on the ground. It's not sitting in the air.
No, because there's a wall and the smoke, so it kind of propels up. Like the.
Okay, I guess I can see that. Like if it's up against the wall. Okay,
it's one of those things where it's like. So the reality is, there's actually no proof either way, because the video's taken from quite far away. The police are like, ha, this is fine. There's not really much else from anyone who was actually involved to say what it was.
Yeah.
So it's all quite ambiguous. So the easiest thing to do is just go like, oh yeah, it was just this. But there's people just asking the questions, and I'm like, what are you talking about? But why am I doing that? And the answer is not just because I'm a douche, before you say
'Cause you're
it.
boring. Because you're boring and you have no imagination.
Wow, that's really hard to. Wow, that's really hard to
Oh,
accept.
hold on. I have a question for you that might
Go now.
explain it. Okay. Have you ever seen a demon in person?
No.
Have you ever seen a ghost
Oh, don't.
in
Do
person?
you know what I oh, don't.
In person.
Do you know what I have? Well, right. Okay. Sorry. Right. I don't believe, but I would say I have potentially encountered a ghost, a girl singing at a
Okay.
place, a pub I used to work at in the cellar, and I heard this girl singing.
Okay.
And what I later found out was that the kind of owners of the pub, who was upstairs, had actually the guy had seen a girl at the end of their bed singing. And I didn't know this when I heard it.
Oh, that's cool.
So it is cool, but I'm there going, and it's just pipes. And it's just pipes. Because my brain doesn't want me.
Okay, I need to put you in my basement. I'm going to flush my toilet.
Hang on.
And then I want you to tell me whether or not my toilet's singing.
No, but this is a pub. There's gas canisters everywhere. There's pipes going up to it's everywhere. There's pipes going up to
But if it's singing, it's got a tune, it's got some melody, it's got some rhythm that you don't get from a flushing pipe or any type of pipe.
But it was also dark, so because I was switching up for the night. It's 1 o'clock in the morning,
and that affects your ears.
No, but you hear, don't you? I was on my own the whole place, it's so your mind tells you things which might. No, this is me talking from who I was before we started talking.
You mean talking out your ass is what you're saying?
No, it's not your.
I'm kidding.
No, it's fine because I'm happy. So I'm sorry, it was not a short answer, but even though 9 out of 10 people would be like, "Oh, I heard a ghost singing," I'm like, "Look, it sounds like someone singing, but it's probably pipes." So go on. I just don't look like that. Just.
I'm sorry if my mouth doesn't say it. I'm sorry if my mouth doesn't say it. My face will.
And I just said a hell of a lot. Carry on.
That's part of my problem. But the reason I ask is a lot of people that are very skeptical and they'll write it off, and they're more willing to take these bullshit explanations for weird stuff happening, are typically those that have never experienced anything that they cannot explain themselves.
Yeah.
Now, people like me, I mean, now granted, I still am pretty skeptical for some things. Like, okay, all my cryptids that I go about, we have a blast. I'm not sure that 98% of them are even in existence. Yeah. It's probably just something mistaken for something else that people couldn't explain in the region that they are in, because they're, well, sometimes in weird places or old-timey stuff. That being said, though, to have situations, what the hell was that? There's literally, I've been in, I mean, probably thousands of situations where there is no explanation. There is nothing to explain what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, what, like, things touching me, like weird stuff. And well, it could be, I'm not saying 100% sure that it, it all is, but it could be this.
Yeah.
It could be that. It could be some kind of mental something another. Maybe they had a break, or they're on drugs, or whatever. But I will say, just to blanket this one, if you are drinking as an 8, it is not part of being drunk. So all these people that are like, oh, I saw this UFO, or I was abducted, or I saw this creature, and they're like, oh, they're drunk. I mean, I don't get drunk a lot, but I've been pretty dang drunk. And I never once thought I saw something. I see more when I'm sober than when I'm doing anything else. So, like, for instance, dude, seriously, for anybody who wants all the details, I'll graze over some, but they're in my episodes. I think 3 and 7 are the big ones where I go into a lot of stuff that I've seen. I've literally had what my guess is a lot of stuff that I've seen. I've literally had what my guess is a demon sitting, like I was in the driver's seat of the car and it was in the passenger seat. And when I turned to look, thinking it would disappear whenever I looked, it was right there staring at me. It didn't move. And then I ended up much later, and it actually like reached out and touched me and then just left. It was really bizarre. And then all this really weird stuff started happening at like the same day. But even to the point where I've been editing, and you know what it's like when you edit and you could see the voice, modulating as you got. And I was recording one day. I was by myself. So it's me, 2 dogs, and 2 kitty cats. The TV was off, no radio, nothing else was on. It was literally, and I am getting goosebumps when I'm talking about it. And I was just recording or editing my podcast, and I'm watching the line and it's going real smooth and nothing changes, but all of a sudden my headphones are like, it's like quiet pause, and then it goes, shh, hello? And me being me, I go, hello. I didn't even think about it. I just was like, oh, hi. And then it goes, shh, and it was quiet and then kept going. And I'm watching my bar and nothing changed. And so I was like, well, that was really weird. I was like, there was nobody here when I recorded, and there's nobody here now and nothing here. So I went back and played it through again, and it wasn't there. It was only that one time while I was doing it. It's like something just inserted itself. And another one that you'll get a kick out of, so you can actually find it. If you go on my Instagram, there's a post when I did a recording with her, and it's, I believe the background's like green, and it's like got her emblem because I'm on her episode instead of her being on my episode. And it's a video. It's about, I think, 18 seconds long. Play it, because when we recorded, it was me and my used to be co-host, her and her used to be co-host. So there's 4 women recording, no men anywhere on either side. And when we were recording, everything was normal. When she, bless her heart, she went to edit at like 2:30 in the morning. Bad mistake. And if you listen, so at first there's bad mistake. And if you listen, so at first there's like some weird, like wonky sounds. Don't pay attention to the first blotch. But a few seconds after that, is the only time I started talking in the whole recording, and we went 2 episodes in. And I start talking, and you could break it out by mic, and on my microphone, I'm just talking, but a man's voice comes in and goes, almost dead, and then stops and then backs off. Yeah. And that was, she was losing her mind. I mean, just losing her mind, because it's 2:30 in the morning and she's listening, and all of a sudden there's this man. And like I said, and then right after that happened on the video, all my lights started going off and on in my room that I was recording in. And I mean, it's been, I mean, I've had that. I've had, my kids haunt me. So they really like to say my name, which is really annoying. And I just hear, mommy. And I'll be like, oh, hey, what? Newsflash. My breathing child is 12. He has a very deep voice because, well, he's 12, and he does not call me mommy anymore. He only calls me mom. And he does not call me mommy anymore. He only calls me mom, because he's too cool. And just a couple weeks ago, I was sleeping on the couch, and I heard a voice that sounded like somebody was standing right next to the couch. And it goes, mommy, and woke me up. Like it was like I was dead asleep, and woke me up. Like it was like I was dead asleep, and it woke me up because it was so clear and so loud.
Yeah.
And I took my thing off, and of course there's nothing standing there. I mean, we had a treadmill that turned itself on. The Keurig machine brewed cups of coffee by itself with nobody home. And, the lights are constantly flickering. I can't explain it. There's no explanation for it.
So is it So you think this is directly? Sorry, I'm fully engrossed now.
Oh, you're
So
good.
it's kind of surrounding you. It's not surrounding the property. It's not surround like
It's always me.
it's you.
And
Mm.
I mean, because all of this stuff that I just told you happened in 3 or 4 different houses. And it's the same things, just in different houses. Like they just follow me around. I've been at work, and to be fair, I fell asleep at work. Because I sleep at night, and that's just, you can only do that for so long before you croak. But I like dozed off, and I heard Natasha, like somebody was like in my ear, like talking. I wear these at work, and they're noise canceling for starters, so I can't hear. But it was like somebody was in my ear going, Natasha. And I woke up, and I, looked like nobody was around me. And then I've had where I was sitting there, and it felt like somebody took like a finger and like ran it up my back, which is something I do to screw with people. When you run your finger and then you
Yeah.
walk away. And some it felt like somebody did that, and so I was like, "Ha, real funny." And I turn around, and no one's even close to me. I'm like, can we not? That'd be great. I mean, the hand sanitizers like that are on the wall, like if I'm in a room, like they'll randomly go off even though no one's around it. It's weird stuff all the time. And everybody's like, wow, seriously? I'm like, it happens so often. But I mean, I do have a lot of things that I'm still skeptical about, especially psychics. Sorry if there's anybody out there listening. But until somebody can send me a message, which I challenge any podcast I bring this up on, I challenge you. If you're a self-proclaimed psychic, send me a message and tell me something that you cannot Google. Send me a message and tell me something that you cannot Google, you cannot find on any of my social media, and only I would know, and then I'll believe you.
Yeah.
But so far, nobody has been able to do so.
Yeah.
And I can only say I'm skeptical about it because I've also told, I've called 11 babies where I've called 11 babies where I had a dream. And I called someone. I'm like, hey, you're pregnant. It's a boy. And they're like, what are you talking? Yeah. They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you're pregnant. It's a boy. They're like, what are you talking about? And then 3 weeks later, they find, what are you talking about? And then 3 weeks later, they find out they're pregnant. And guess what? It's a boy.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're just establishing that you're not being haunted. It's you. You are some.
Yeah, it's me.
You're a
well, and
vessel.
I've even had some where I watch people die. And then they die, like 2 or 3 days, and then they die, like 2 or 3 days later. I think I'm up to like 6 of those. It's not really fun, but yeah, it's really weird stuff. And you would assume that if I'm experiencing that, I would be a little less skeptical. But my thing is I don't claim to be a psychic. I don't claim to do any. I don't even tell if anybody's dying. I don't tell them shit.
Could you tell me? Just give me a heads up.
Well, okay. Because a lot of people, it's to the point now where I have people that if I call them because I need something, they're like, hello? And I'm like, oh, hey, I got a question. They're like, I'm not pregnant, am I? And I'm like, no. I was like, no, sure. I just want to make sure. I'm like, I'd tell you. I was like, I wouldn't start the conversation. I was like, I would start off with that, But it's just stuff like that. And so with me, when people are...
I'm sorry. I just had this kind of thing. Just you're there, out and about, you're at a bar or something, and you kind of meet someone and they've just ordered I don't know, a glass of wine, and you're like, oh, I wouldn't drink that.
Well, what's weird is if I look at the timing of when I have my dreams of people being pregnant, my dream usually correlates, as awkward as it is, with when they would have conceived the kid. Awkward as it is, with when they would have conceived the kid. Not like I've had one where like my sisters, and I'm like, hey, you're pregnant. It's a girl. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm like, trust me, you're pregnant and it's a girl. And then she went into the doc 4 weeks later and then was like, oh, like I'm 4 weeks pregnant. I was like, oh, weird. Like, it's like, I told you.
See, right, this is because this
But see,
I'm like
enthralled,
and I'm amazed, and it's like my brain that I can't.
But that's the things where I'm like, there's no explanation for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of anything that would explain, and they're random. Some of them have been people that I don't even know. Or I know who they are and I know their name, but I've never met them.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why would I even think about that? I don't know these people. Like, I don't know. And it's really unfortunate, but it's just stuff like that where, people try to poo poo, and I'm like, how can you poo poo that? And people are like, well, maybe you just thought you heard something. Like, I heard word that. And people are like, well, maybe you just thought you heard something. Like, I heard words, like words. Things are happening. And what's
That's
funny
crazy.
is the treadmill and the Keurig machine only happened when my husband was home. Only happened when my husband was home and I was gone. And 2 days before that started, I stood in my kitchen and said, all right, guys, I know you're here. I've heard you. I've seen you. I know you're here. He doesn't believe me. Pick on him and show him who's boss. And literally the next day, he was, believe me, pick on him and show him who's boss. And literally the next day, he was calling me. He's like, dude, he thought I poured coffee all over the counter, just left it. I'm like, dude, I was like, I haven't even used that thing in a month.
What's he think now? So how long have you guys been together?
Almost 4 years.
4 years. And so for kind of 3.5 years, he was skeptical, just thought
he calls it hocus pocus.
Yeah.
He thinks I'm nuts.
But loves you all the same, which is great. But now he's changed, or is he still trying to justify things? He's completely committed to
he'll go to the grocery store and I might be like, oh crap, I forgot to put Pringles on the grocery list or whatever. And I'll just be like, man, I really want some Pringles, and I forgot to put them on the list. And I won't call him, I won't message him, because I'm like, he's probably on his way home and I don't want him to be frustrated because I forgot. And then he'll walk in the door and he's like, for some reason I just thought I needed to get Pringles. And I was like, boom. Today, clockwork. And I had like half a tank of gas, and for whatever reason I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm gonna go to the gas station, I'm gonna get a couple energy drinks because I gotta pull an all-nighter for some notes for tomorrow's pod. And I was like, I'll just go to the gas station. I will get gas. I'll get the drinks. And I'm like, oh, I will get gas. I'll get the drinks. And I'm like, oh, I wonder if he went to the store to get milk. I'll just get milk while I'm there. And I was like, oh, well, I'll call him. So I'm at the gas station. I just pull in and I go to call him to be like, hey, did you get milk or should I grab some? And literally the phone beeps, milk or should I grab some? And literally the phone beeps and the message comes up and it says, hey, babe, can you stop at the gas station and get milk on your way home? And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, really? Like, out of all the things, because I never stop, like, ever. And just, it's always like weird stuff like that. And it's just really whatever. And I've had a couple people, I used to work with them almost a year ago, and I haven't talked to them in probably 6-8 months. And for some reason, they were just on my brain one day. And I was like, man, I feel like I should message them. I wonder what's going on. Wonder how they're doing. But, I got sidetracked. Both of them sent me a message asking how I was doing. And I hadn't heard from them in like almost a year. It's just, but you see what I mean? Like, it's weird stuff like that just doesn't make sense. And so I am very open. And I just think it's silly that, any Joe Schmo off the street could come up with some bogus explanation. And because everybody, it's almost as if them acknowledging that something like that could be out there is so detrimental to their mental state that they will latch on to anything other than what it could have actually been.
Guilty as charged. I mean, sorry, just so when we started this, I thought this was going to go a completely different way. So I thought we would talking, kind of conspiracies and just that, and that I get. Like, I can have that conversation. I can be open-minded, but this is like, this really challenges kind of.
And I think maybe part of it is because, so when you think conspiracy, okay, most conspiracy, it is conspiracy, whether or not those humans are doing something so atrocious. In which case, most people, we all know that we're fucked, right? I mean, we suck as a race. We are horrible to each other.
Yeah.
We do crazy things. I mean, there's absolutely no limit to the amount of crazy things. I mean, there's absolutely no limit to the amount of chaos and pain and just disregard for other human beings at all. So when you think of conspiracies, it's whether or not a human being could do that to somebody else, in which case most of the time people are like, oh, for sure. But if it's time, people are like, oh, for sure. But if it's this creature or this being that we don't typically, I'm getting goosebumps again. It's really weird. Like we don't typically, interact with, or maybe it's another plane of existence another plane of existence that you can't physically see. You can't wrap your mind around it because you can't see it, or there's no real concrete thing that you've had in front of you that you could associate with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could associate with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's people like connecting the dots. They like to be able to get from A to B to C, and it makes sense. Because there's a lot about life which is uncertain, and actually, if you start, I just spitballing, which could never be under your control, like paranormal or anything like that, then the world becomes an awful lot more scary.
Yeah.
You've not only got to worry about the real, you've got to worry about the alternative as
I'm
well.
like, I had a one-on-one with a demon when I was 15. I could totally see a dog man existing. Well, the viewpoint. It's like a Bigfoot, and people are like, well, how could we possibly have not experienced them, or how could we not have any evidence? I'm like, there's been tons of evidence. You guys have just kiboshed it. So you can't sit here and say, well, there's never been any evidence. Well, no shit, Sherlock, because you guys just poo-poo it. Everything. But also, like that Patterson footage.
But with Bigfoot, though, the place where Bigfoot's sighted is now just a massive. Everything's Bigfoot diner, Bigfoot this, and no one, they had obviously thousands of tourists a year, and no one sees anything. But
because some people, that's the thing. I also wonder. This is the thing that I wonder. Okay, so there's different types of people. There's people probably. This is going to sound like me being an asshole, but I'm not. There's people like you.
Yeah.
That are, quote unquote, but then there's people like me that are, I don't know if we have a different energy or what it is, but I am literally a beacon for all kinds of weird crap. It happens to me literally almost on the daily. And there's some people that never experience anything, but I experience it all the time. So it's because he can't see me, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I almost wonder if the same, whatever it is that makes me different than some people, might make it to where maybe I would, which is partially why I don't go squatching. Maybe they would pick up on the same thing, and maybe I would see something, pick up on the same thing, whatever these other things are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like this beacon of red hair.
How old were you when you had your first experience?
The first one I remember, I was 15, and that was my demon.
That was in the car. Before that, obviously you may have experienced something, but couldn't. Before that, obviously you may have experienced something, but couldn't.
So I had, I remember certain things where, I would get really weird feelings, like there was someone else around me, or stuff like that. Or I always knew, which I was horrible. I won't lie. I was a total bee's niche. Horrible. I won't lie. I was a total bee's niche. I could always get what I wanted because I always knew what the other person wanted.
Yeah.
So I could kind of exploit that, which is bad. But I always knew how to, but I would know how to handle people and get away. But I always knew how to, but I would know how to handle people and get away with things and because I could pick up on that. And I've always kind of been, I guess the word would be empathic. Which is very unfortunate. I don't recommend it. 10 out of 10 don't recommend. But I remember being like that, and knowing how other people, like, I would be sad for no reason, and wouldn't know why. I'm like, why am I upset? But other people in the room would be upset, or this or that or the other, and I wouldn't understand why I that way, because I'm generally, which is kind of ironic, I'm not an overly, I don't do emotions, I don't, which is kind of weird for me because I don't feel a lot. That sounds horrible. I sound like a total like psychopath. But my feelings, I don't feel a lot of my feelings. I can feel everyone else's feelings, and I don't know if I can't differentiate, because everything's so kind of mushed in there that I can't tell what's mine and what's not.
Yeah.
But I've always been like that. But I never saw anything until I was about 15. And then when I had my near-death experience when I was 18, it just escalated. And when I had my near-death experience when I was 18, it just escalated. I mean, you might as well, cook it with gas.
So I think make kind of kick the door open.
Yeah, it's like my door was kind of cracked, and then that just blew it off the hinges.
Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun time.
Okay.
Never a dull moment.
Episode 3 and episode 7, yeah?
Yeah,
That's
so
where we
those
get
are
good insights.
yeah,
Obviously,
and
everyone did from episode 1, but those are the ones. Those are the go-tos.
Yep. So, well, those are the ones. Like I said, I have a little bit of everything in there, but 3 and 7, and I went over like my first. I think I titled it like first hauntings or something, and those are the ones that I experienced initially, and I was in like a certain house, and those all happened in one house, and then there's current house hauntings or current hauntings or however I worded it, and those all, it's just some of the things that have happened to me like in this house that I'm sitting at right now. So there's a bunch of other stuff that's happened that I just haven't put into an episode yet, but yeah,
More to come.
it's pretty bananas.
It is bananas, because I'm gonna end this and I'm gonna talk to people. It is bananas because I'm gonna end this and I'm gonna talk to people. I'll be like, I had this great guest on, or this has happened. Da, da. And I'll
Yeah.
be like, oh wow, and I'll still be like, yeah, but that is because, like, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just an internal. I think it's just an internal thing in me, just not wanting to open myself to a possibility, because it's
yeah,
it's open to, I don't know, more danger, or
and
more,
I think
whatever it is.
and a lot of people do, because they're like, oh well, what did you do to invite it? I was like, nothing.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't do shit. I was like, I think honestly, part of the reason, like I said earlier, is that people haven't experienced anything themselves that they can't explain.
Mm.
And once that, if that happens, they tend to be, it changes your whole outlook, right? On everything. And then, like, to me, because it's been happening so long, that's not normal. Because to me, it's normal. It happens all the time. And I'm like, oh, like, oh, I saw a ghost today, or, oh, like, I heard this person like talking to me, or, oh, like, whatever. And people are like, what? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's so scary. I'd be so scared. And they're like, how are you so nonchalant? And I'm like, it's scary. I'd be so scared. And they're like, how are you so nonchalant? And I'm like, it just happens all the time. To me, it's just part of normal life.
Just that.
And
I do also think a big reason for people not believing. So back in, the early days, so Roswell and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So Roswell and all those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
What you have is obviously things are explained away a lot. I think like cinema has played a big part, because every person who's seen a thing is the crazy person, unless it's a horror. Look at things, because I was thinking about it, I was like, things like Independence Day. I think everyone's seen the original Independence Day. No, you've not seen it. Okay, that's fine. But there's
I'm not sure.
It's Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum, but there's a guy, and he's now an alcoholic, and he's not a very good dad. And everyone takes the mick out of him, and he's kind of like the kind of laughing stock. And then obviously the aliens come and attack, and he's like, I was right. But even that's the depiction. That's the stereotypical depiction, is the local crazy person.
Everybody's crazy. And in my lights, I saw a UFO, a craft, or something, and they're like, "Oh, it was the military running some whatever test,"
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Cool, show me,
Yeah.
show me the craft that they have, show me a
They can
picture
do it. But also,
that would look like that."
what is so annoying now? Obviously, technology is the thing I see.
Oh,
Everything is
I
AI.
struggle.
Everything.
AI is horrible.
I will disregard anything now. Someone could show me doing something I did, and I would say, "Well, I don't actually know if that's true or not because of where we are." And that's or that's not going to help your case, right? Because
Right.
say your case like that. Say your case like that kind of conspiracy
Mm-hmm.
in inverted commas, because it may not be a conspiracy just because people talk about it. But anyway, like technology and AI and people being able to create things off an app is not going to help anyone who's actually has these real life encounters.
Exactly. It discredits a lot.
Life encounters.
Exactly. It discredits a lot of things, but about that, me being able to pick up on other people's stuff, I'm kind of like a human lie detector.
Right.
I know it.
Right.
I know if you're bullshitting me.
Yeah.
So when I hear people talk about things that happen to them, sometimes I'm like, it's immediate. I'm like, like, I don't think that's legit. But some people, I mean, I'm like, man, like this, they saw something. I mean, something happened. I'm like, man, like this, they saw something. I mean, something happened to this person. And whether or not they can explain it or not is one thing. But I can usually, sift through it and be like, yeah, like that one, that one's bogus, that one's bogus. But it is like, everybody's so scared to share what happened to them because they don't want to, lose their job or lose their family or lose whatever. Yeah. And it makes them absolutely petrified. But at the same time, if something happens to you like that and it really truly happened and you're just letting it sit in there and fester, it's going to eat away.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff is just, it's so cookie cutter, I guess you could say. And it's like the thing. So when the Greys became a thing, all of a sudden, the only alien encounters that people are reporting are Greys. They're not getting these weird aliens that they were reporting back in like the 50s, 40s, 30s, whatever. They're just getting Greys. And part of me sometimes,
humanoids, and it's all very convenient.
Well, not now. Nowadays they are. And it just, to me, I do sometimes think, but at the same, but at the same time, when you brought up the horror films, I have very, very, very like vivid and lucid dreams, and they are horrible to the point where I am medicated to try to kill the nightmares because they're to the point where, I would wake up just drenched in sweat. I would wake myself up because I was screaming bloody murder. And I didn't know it was me. It's just I woke up hearing screaming and then realized it was me. I waylaid my husband multiple times, kicked the dog in my sleep because I don't know what's happening. Yeah. And I've been disemboweled. I've been drawn and quartered. I was drowned last night. That was a new one. Someone drowned me in soapy water. I've been decapitated. I've been lit on fire. So like all of these horrible, horrible things. And everybody's like, oh, you need to stop watching all these horror films. I'm like, okay, watch scary movie. I don't watch scary movies.
You don't need to.
I can't. They scare the hell out of me, obviously. And I watched one of the Halloween movies for the first time last year. And because I couldn't even watch the Scream movie without watching like cartoons without watching like cartoons for 3 days
after,
to try to get.
You got to watch cartoons after.
Yeah, and so I don't watch it. I don't have really any exposure to it. So, and it's just something about my brain that I don't know. It's just weird. But I don't know. It's just weird. But it's just stuff like that where I think there is a lot of the media that influences it, and it might be, I think a lot of times too, somebody might see something, they can't explain it, they don't know what they're looking at, but they might be like, the closest thing that I have is, American Werewolf in London, or, whatever the case may be. That is the closest thing that I can come up with that resembles it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people, and not very many people reporting these things have I seen that are artists that can, actually draw what they saw. It looked kind of like this. It usually happens at night. So things are a little bit, skewed and that kind of thing. And I put all that in consideration. And there's a lot of things that I think is, bull crap. I mean, anything that was Ed and Lorraine Warren is just bullshit. I mean, they were a joke.
Who's that?
Ed and Lorraine Warren.
No, not.
They were paranormal demonologists.
Hill House.
Yes.
Yes.
So they did that. They did. They investigated tons of like huge, and it was like
they did one in Yorkshire.
They'd show up, and it'd be a big deal, and they'd be like, oh, it's a demon, and they're totally fake. They just monetized everything. But there's some people, I mean, they have these experiences, they share them. They don't make any money off of it. They're not trying to make any money off of it. They just want to know if somebody else out there has seen what they've seen so that they can relate to them.
Yeah.
I think. And those ones that kind of bring a little more can relate to them.
Yeah.
I think. And those ones that kind of bring a little more true to me.
And and this is where you've got me, because generally someone who has experiences like you've had, someone who has this connection, that you have, would be out there. Yes. Okay. What it's easy to think, well, just go out there. There's ways to monetize it, but people who don't, and you're the first person, and that's where I'm like, it's just you there living your life with what's going on.
And sometimes I do, because a lot of people, like I said, they have experiences, but they're not comfortable talking to anybody about it.
Yeah.
But I'm very open. So I'm like, yeah, like this should happen to me. So I have a lot of faith to it. And, we can go back and forth. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. And I understand that. Or people are like, oh my gosh, you saw that too? Like, I saw this. And so then they're like, oh, okay. So then we try to kind of figure out, like, maybe is there something that we have in common that kind of makes that connection? And it's just, okay, so Eric with connection. And it's just, okay, so Eric with when I recorded with him from Unseen Paranormal. God, I love him. He's great. And so he's empathic too. And he was kind of talking about some of the things that he goes through and he's experienced. And I mean, I was so excited because like, oh my gosh, through and he's experienced. And I mean, I was so excited because like, oh my gosh, I was like, I have questions for you because I've never met another person besides myself that does that. So I was picking his brain, like, hey, does this happen to you? Does this happen to you? Like, why does it? So then we had a really good conversation about it because I've never met anybody else that does that.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. That's fantastic. So it's like things, it's like, I could, to be fair, I probably could have some sort of book. My life is like a total show. And like, I could easily have a book, but instead of doing all of that and, monetizing anything with that, I do my cryptid poetry scenario, and I'm hoping to eventually have something published, but it has nothing to do with me or my experiences. It's literally just things about the, creatures and stuff that I cover.
Wow. Okay. Right. This is.
I'm a different breed. I'm a different breed.
This has been how and what I don't want to do. I mean, 'cause I could talk to you. I mean, we've so far recorded for
a long time. Sorry,
an hour. I don't know. It's time has I don't know. It's time has flown. But I actually am worried that it's going to. I want people to listen. I want people to listen to your pop because, like, as don't give away all the secrets now here because it's enthralling. It rarely get lost for words.
Yeah. And two, I mean, like I tell everybody all the time, I mean, go listen, and anything that I cover, any of my experiences or anybody, whatever the case may be, if you've got questions, just send it to my email. I mean, email me if you have encounters or something, but it's not really it's not a Bigfoot and it's not, necessarily a ghost. Screw it. Send it to me. Like, I want to know all of that. And you can always go, or if you have questions, email me, and I'm pretty good about getting back with people and stuff like that if they do have questions.
Good. I mean, I hope everyone does, because there are people who may just need that reassuring hand of,
I don't judge.
yeah, just like, hey, this happened. I think this happened. I don't, wherever their mind is with it. And yeah, people reach out because I had this account. I thought as ghost, and yeah, people reach out because I had this account. I thought as ghost place, which turned out to be other people had more just than just one person I spoke to.
And if they do, and like if there are listener stories and I read them or they're on the show, whatever the case may be, and people sometimes will reach out and be like, hey, like I listened to this episode and this happened to me, blah blah blah. And sometimes I'm like, I can ask both parties, be like, do y'all want to get together? Because like I can share your information if you guys want to, discuss what you saw, if they're similar or whatever, as long as it's okay with both parties, like I can do that. So it's kind of then anybody who listens to me is going to hear it. And then odds are, what if, somebody might have something similar and be like, oh, hey, yeah, like I didn't know that happened. Like that happened to me forever ago. Like, I don't know, purple elephants. That's a horrible example because that's a drug thing, isn't it? Polka dot monkeys. I saw this polka dot monkey that came out of my closet, and somebody might be like, holy shit, I had a polka dot monkey too. And yeah.
But okay, so I mean, this conversation, like I said, this is the part of the show where I say, well, how do we make it better? And so, but I don't know. Like, what do you
say? You always got to wear your skeptic hat.
Yeah.
I even wear the skeptic hat. But don't just shut people down without considering, without listening to them.
Yeah.
At least have the decency and respect as a human being to listen to what they have to say and if you don't believe it and you're totally closed off and all of that, at least listen, because sometimes weird stuff happens and they just need a listening board. They just need somebody to hear them. Sometimes they don't even want your feedback or your opinions. They just need somebody that they could say, want your feedback or your opinions. They just need somebody that they could say, this happened. I just need to get it off my chest and I'm good.
Because if we, and that is like what people class as normal day-to-day life, things happen and people need to talk about it. And a lot of the time people are not believed or that this not believed or that this it's credited. So why can't we just have another level on top of that where it's just okay, it's slightly left field in the way of kind of normal life, but then so, isn't a lot of things
and there's a good resource story or something and they could say, do you know any groups or anything? Because like I'm on tons of groups on like Facebook and stuff that are all related to these topics that I cover, and they might not know that, and it might just be like, hey, like if you have a a Bigfoot encounter or whatever, and you're looking to talk to experiences, like, hey, check out these groups on Facebook because there are other people that are sharing their encounters, and you guys can communicate and be part of that community so that you're not isolated and going crazy thinking that you're nuts.
Yeah, I love that.
So
it's I say very it's I say very sweet, and I could go on, and you know what, I'm very very eager to do kind of a part 2 of this down the line because especially after I've completely binge listened to absolutely everything. Because I do, I'm a big fan of supernatural and horror and things like that in cinema, but I think I'm probably quite numbed to it because I've been watching for 25 years, and so it's all smoke years, and so it's all smoke and mirrors. But okay, maybe I should try and be more open-minded.
I have a mini series coming up that you'll probably thoroughly enjoy, where we will be discussing, which with my friend Melissa, and we are doing a 3-part with my friend Melissa, and we are doing a 3-part on the goblins, which are also known as Tokoloshis of Zimbabwe. And we're talking multiple witnesses and encounters and stuff like that. So it is something that it's very much in all of that. So you can kind of get another viewpoint, because so far a lot of the stuff that I cover isn't necessarily so much local and very, very, very ingrained lore or anything. But this one, I mean, it's totally bananas. I mean, these stories are freaking nuts. But it also puts into consideration how much without even seeing them before. So it kind of gives you that, like, oh, maybe like a tulpa or something like that, where, you know, enough people believe in it and they might see it because they believe in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like hop on the bandwagon and stuff. So it'll be a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
And then like hop on the bandwagon and stuff. So it'll be a different viewpoint. But it's definitely strange. It's different. It's not your typical cryptid story.
I already love the sound of it. But Natasha, that this okay, very quickly. But Natasha, that this okay, very quickly. Drop. What's the links? What's the page?
Okay, so I am on Facebook, X. I guess it's not Twitter anymore. So X, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. I'm everywhere. I do have a website which has everything you need to know in it. It's www.cryptidscreepsandconspiracy.com. And on there, it's got links to the merch site where I have like a whole bunch of t-shirts, cups, tote bags, all kinds of crap. And then we also have the Patreon if you're interested in that. It's got additional audio and all the details are on there directly from the website. We're also pretty much anywhere you listen. The big ones right now on the stats are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Those are the main ones, but pretty much anywhere that you guys can listen, you can find me. And any of the links on there, also on the website, there is if for whatever reason my email is cryptidscreepsandconspiracy@gmail.com. But if you can't remember that, but you can remember the website with exactly the same name, you can contact on the form and it'll come directly to me as well. So there's all kinds of options. You can rate and review it, anything from the website. That's pretty much where all of it is. And in the bios, I put a Linktree link.
Yeah.
So it looks a little funny. If you're looking for a specific link, all you're going to see is the Linktree link. Those of you that are not familiar with it, if you open that, everything's on there. I mean, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There's even a donate link on there. I mean, literally all the merch is on there. And I'm everywhere.
Every time I think I've followed everything, I find something else I need to follow you on. That's one thing I've noticed.
People are like, you're everywhere. I was like, I literally am everywhere. I was like, you can't escape. That was a little creepy, wasn't it? Sorry.
No, it's and that's well, that not only encapsulated everything, kind of that about your podcast and kind of what you talk about, but your actual experience, which I was not expecting. Like,
that's it. Well, I've always like I said, it's part of me. One thing I do want to let people know. So I have my normal episodes and everything that's out there. I'm not currently doing it because I don't have any subscribers yet, but in the Patreon, there is a tier. And on that tier, it's got a couple of different like fun stuff. You can go read all about that. But the two things I did want to bring up was it gives you the opportunity to be a guest on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like on person, instead of me reading your story for you. You can be, it's like up twice a year. You can be on the show and tell your own story if you'd like, or we could cover a topic, whatever the heck you feel like doing. And then I also, at the same tier, once I get people subscribing, that's going to be where I'm going to do like live episodes and stuff, like once a month at least is what I'm aiming for. And in that time, I mean, I'm going to allow time for Q&A. So it's going to be something where like you could be live, with me asking questions, stuff. And that's also the only place where you can access my video content. And I mean, when I say the videos, it's the videos. It's no editing, it's raw, it's uncut. I mean, and it's the Patreon episodes, the regular episodes, everything. There are a few that I don't have videos for, and that's because we had a technical malfunction, which is kind of ironic because the episode where I had this like massive spontaneous bloody nose because I talked about the demon, when I went back to download the video, it was just a black screen. And the person even with me, I download the video, it was just a black screen. And the person even with me, I even contacted the person I did it with. I was like, we recorded this, right? And you can see it plays the whole thing, but it's all black. They're like, yeah, we recorded, everything was fine. I'm like, apparently not. So there are a couple videos that are not on there because we had some technical issues.
Yeah, we'll play. We'll
But
play. We'll
but
blame the paranormal for that.
yeah, but yeah, so it's all on there, and it's just some stuff that not everybody has access to. But it's still, it's really fun because I like to interact with people, and I like having that one-on-one opportunity so that people can, chat or ask questions or whatever. So
Even with my skeptical douchebaggery eye,
it's all right. Hey,
listen,
I'm not gonna hate. Eventually we'll persuade you.
We'll see. Natasha, thank you so much. It has been amazing. I say it's very little on this podcast, and but in a good way. I'm absolutely stoked.
I'm a talker.
Thank you for your energy and your enthusiasm. Everyone, thank you so much for listening. Do follow everything that Natasha has just gone through. Find Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. Natasha has just gone through. Find Cryptids, Creeps, and Conspiracy. There you go. I did that one quite well.
Yeah, you did great.
Find it on all platforms. Watch everything. Download everything. Stream everything. And buy the merch as well. Why not? That's.
Oh. I have tons of it. I love that stuff. That's all I wear pretty much is merch. That's all I wear pretty much is merch. I'm actually wearing it right now. You guys can't see it, but I have a t-shirt dress that I need to figure out how to get it on the store because it's just got my logo and it's like super comfortable. It's like all I wear now around the house.
So comfortable. I'll get one. And I'll say if anyone's hasn't, I've got posting little things about my dog and just adding in kind of the link to the podcast, like on the off chance. But I was actually told last night, oh, the podcast is fine, but I just want more dog content. No, just more dog content. They don't actually care about what I've got to say. They just want to see more. And actually, I will have another concept. I'm 87% sure. So I've got a Romanian rescue. I don't think he was born a dog. I think a curse was put on him, and he's actually like a 60-year-old, really grumpy man. He's been turned into a dog. Really grumpy man. He's been turned into a dog because he's got all the mannerisms of just a grumpy old man, but he's in dog form.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and okay, without getting it too weird, there is a lady who I see quite regularly. Doesn't really say anything. It's always in exactly the same spot, no matter what time I walk. Doesn't really say anything. It's always in exactly the same spot, no matter what time I walk. Right? She's always walking. Always say good morning. Doesn't matter what time I go. She's always out there walking. Exactly the same bit of field. I'm pretty sure, and she's a Eastern European lady. I'm pretty sure she's there checking up on my Neville. I really hope it's true.
It was her husband that really pissed her off one day.
Wow.
And so she put a hex on him, turned him into a dog, and then dumped his ass at the rescue shelter so that she didn't have to take care of him anymore. Yeah. Someone else can.
Exactly. Or he wronged her or the family in some way. I don't know. He doesn't talk much. But he's very expressive in the eyes. But yeah. Anyway, that the last tangent. Again, thank you.
It's chow time.
All there is for me to say thank you for listening. Natasha, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It is goodbye from me, and it's goodbye from Natasha. Say goodbye, Natasha.
Adios.
Just a random adios at the end.
Yeah. See ya.